Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Life After DD214. Today, I have with me the second host of DES Talks, Rob Hurst. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm great, brother. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. So, Rob, I just had a great conversation with your brother. We had some interesting things that we discussed. Now it's your turn to sit in the hot seat. So,
I'm
how
here
are you
for it.
feeling?
Dude, I'm great. I'm ready to go. I can't wait to hear the conversation that you had with my much older brother. Clearly, as you can see, there's no gray here. But I'm sure that was a great conversation. I'm sure we'll have one here today, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally looking forward to it.
Yeah, me
So
too, man.
let's get into you. Give me a little introduction. What brought you into the military?
Yeah. So I'm sure if anyone's coming from the episode that you did with Chase yesterday, they'll probably already know. Born and raised in Middle Tennessee, specifically Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Went to high school in Chattanooga at a little private school. And then after that, I chose to go, well, hold on, let me walk that back. I didn't choose to go to Western Kentucky University. Western Kentucky University was the only school that would let me in out of high school. I was much more focused on sports and all the things that come along with that. So, in about the time, I think I was a junior or senior in high school, Chase joined the Marine Corps. And whenever I was up at Western in Bowling Green, Kentucky, after my first semester, I came back and Chase was, I believe, on deployment at that time in Afghanistan. And unfortunately, if I'm recalling this story correctly, he'll kill me if I tell it wrong, but I think that they were doing a convoy, ran over an IED, boom. Okay. And of course, but we're a very tight knit family. So of course I get pissed off about the situation. And that's what added the fuel to the fire right there. You know, I was military. That's gonna be it. Left my job. I was working an after school care program there in Murfreesboro. Left that, walked into the Marine recruiter's office, and at that time I was about as physically fit as I am now with the beard and long hair. And I said, hey, I'm here. Right? Sign me up. What do I have to do? And I remember that Marine, who the are you? Get out, and just starting. I was like, you know what? This isn't the right place for me. But I wanted to serve with my brother. That was the prevailing, uh, what I really wanted to do. And so I wanted to serve with Chase. He was in the Marines at the time, but boy, the Army recruiters were significantly nicer to me when I walked in. Hey, buddy, come in, sit down on the couch, do the thing. So I joined the Army in 2000. It would have been 2009, but I deferred enlistment because whenever I signed my papers, and I was ready to go, Chase called me and said, "Hey, man, Elizabeth and I got engaged. We're getting married in August." And I was like I'm not going to be here for that. All right, so my recruiter, I know everyone has horror stories about that, but my recruiter was fantastic. I don't recall his name. But he took care of me there, so I was there for Chase and Elizabeth's wedding, and then shipped off to South Carolina, right, Fort Jackson. And then from Fort Jackson, made my way down to Redstone Arsenal, to Eglin Air Force Base, Fort Huachuca, Arizona, and then ultimately landed at my first unit, 501st Military Intelligence Battalion, over in South Korea, and really kicked off that military career from there. And so that would have been 2011. I
Okay.
would be in Korea.
So how was your time in Korea?
It was fantastic. I will say, my wife, Melissa, she and I met on active duty, and I know everybody's like, oh, don't marry some girl on active duty. I'm the use case for a successful version of that. Now having celebrated 12 wonderful years of marriage with 2 children. But she and I met in 2011, got engaged. So we got engaged. I thought I was going to come down on orders to go, stateside, somewhere stateside. And I was an Intel cat. I don't know if I said that. And so thought I would be stateside. We had this big plan. Melissa was going to come move and be with me and all this, blah, blah, blah. So come down on orders to Korea. The first few months were rough.
Mm-hmm.
It was really rough. Your first unit, I'd been in for, just over a year at that point because I tried to be cool and do the EOD route at first. And that did not work out. That
Okay.
did not work out for me. And so the military intelligence. They were looking to plus them up. Points were low for promotion. I was like, that's it. I'm in. So the first few months in Korea were not fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then I flew back to the States. Melissa and I got married, and then she came over. And Korea was a whole new world. It was all sunshine and rainbows and puppy dogs everywhere, newlyweds in a foreign country, just the two of us taking on the world. It was fantastic. And then she got pregnant with our first son, and then ultimately our second son. Both my boys were born in Seoul, South Korea.
Oh, that's...
We were doing real world ops. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Army now considers that a non-combat deployment.
Okay.
And so I had an opportunity while I was there to do some pretty cool things and meet some amazing people. I had a mentor, Chief Carlton, who really took me under his wing, kind of showed me what it was like to be a good leader, to really dig in and be a good, MI, non-commissioned officer. The ultimate goal was to go and become a warrant officer. That didn't work out, but we traveled all over Korea, man. All over. It was awesome.
So you mentioned a couple of things that you had ambitions for to do, like going warrant officer and other things, but then you finished them off with, well, that didn't work out. So what happened?
So the EOD school, that didn't work out because I failed.
Mm-hmm.
To be very honest with you, I think that was probably one of the larger failures I've had in life. And not to be, toot my own horn, because I really don't like doing that. I was very fortunate, and I didn't meet the mark, man. I didn't study hard enough. I jerked around too much. I mean, I'm 21 years old and I'm in Destin, Florida. Come on. You know what I mean? I'm single, 21 in Destin, Florida. It didn't work out. But the warrant officer thing, that was the ultimate goal for me. I was a lifer, always wanted to be. I will tell you right now, some of the best people I've met, some of the most intelligent people, giving, caring, have been in the military. And so I didn't want to leave that community. I didn't want to leave, my friends. We had been together since we were, 2021, now 25, 26 by the time I'm ready to drop a warrant packet. But I had messed up my knees. I was a try hard, I really was, because I even at basic training, I remember one of my drill sergeants saying, look at this private. He's not good, but damn, he tries hard. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take that and run with it. I'm going to give 100%. And so, I tried to do, while I was at EOD school, I could totally be misremembering what they called it, but I think it was like SF support selection. Tried to do that. Whenever I was in Fort Huachuca going through the MI training, I wanted to go and be a part of a select unit that deploys immediately out of the schoolhouse. So, you need to be physically fit. So I'm running around with a full kit, running like 5-6 miles, I wanted to do more. I didn't want to be kind of in the middle of the pack. That was never my goal. If I'm here, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to give 100. And ultimately, my body just failed me. And that's what eventually got me medically retired out of the military in 2016, was my knees. I had that whenever I did 13 MRIs while I was on active duty on my left knee for them to figure out what was going on. Started off with them telling me it was a PCL tear, which is this, tiny little bean-shaped ligament on the backside of your kneecap that kind of holds rather critical a thing for the, infrastructure of your knee there. But they said that's what was going on, and then they reversed it. Like, they were all over the place on what was going on. So ultimately, I was medically retired out of Joint Base Lewis McChord in February of 2016, and they told me I had patella tendonitis. Okay. Is what it was. And so my wife and I relocated down here to Texas from Washington State to be closer to family. And so I went to go see a civilian doc in McKinney, Texas. And we did one MRI, and he immediately goes, I can see what's going on. You have something called a plica in your knee. Essentially what it is, it's where cartilage in your joint gets damaged somehow. He said more than likely it was the repetitive motion of running, and doing created the damage. and it turns the cartilage like into bone, essentially. So at this point, it's just bone on bone, constant all the time. So you can imagine swelling never went away. It was painful as hell. Did a 30-minute knee procedure, done. No more knee pain, gone.
Oh, man.
Which kills me. Because then I go back to, I wanted to do this. This was the career. This was the goal in life, was to be in the military and see it out, 20 plus years, do the warrant officer thing, be able to wear a button up in jeans into the skiff would have been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get that opportunity, but yeah, that's what got me out. And then it snowballed. On top of that, all the other things that are service connected that just come by the very nature of being in the military. Yeah.
What made you decide to go to McKinney?
So my father, like I said, we're a close family. We hadn't been together in the same space at that point, like all of us, because I have 2 older brothers. I'm the youngest, and I'm sure you can tell I'm much more lively than my older brother. And so we hadn't been together for probably 13 or 14 years. And so my father's an Episcopal priest. He took a church in Allen, Texas, and moved to McKinney. And so my wife and I had 2 boys under 2. We're like, holy shit, need a little help. And I was going back to school. Collin College is where I started. And so we moved back to be closer to family. Chase and Elizabeth relocated. Our oldest brother relocated, into the area. And so we were all together and kind of nuclear again, which was good.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't know about that part. We talked yesterday, and Chase was talking about how he moved down to McKinney, but didn't realize that you were coming in. But now we're talking like, no, actually the entire family met back up.
Hey,
That's amazing.
Everybody has a different version of the same story. But I can vividly recall he and I having a conversation on who was going to beat who from McKinney. We were coming from opposite ends of the United States. I was in Washington State. He's in New York. And I said, well, let's race. See who gets there first.
So who ended up winning?
I won.
Okay, got it.
Won. Man, I was driving a little Audi A4 across the country. It was fantastic. In the middle of winter, mind you, through Utah, Colorado, Kansas, in a little Audi A4. It was a ride.
Yeah, getting through those Rockies.
Yes.
Definitely challenging in that little Audi.
So I'll tell you this, 1 second. So I was driving through Wyoming, and there was a mountain you had to go over. And down at the bottom, there was a state trooper. And I was in this little red Audi A4 4-door sedan. My family is already in Texas. They flew. And so the state trooper stops me, said, hey, buddy, this car's not going to make it up this mountain. I said, well, sir, my GPS is telling me, like, I'm going to Texas. I'm not from the West Coast. I'm Southern, so snow means nothing. I have no concept of snow. Ice, got it all day long. That's not a problem. So ultimately made it up the mountain, and the state trooper was right behind me riding my tail the whole time because he was like, if you start spinning out, I'm going to get behind you and we'll stop you. Made it all the way up. And he pulled in front of me and goes, well, I didn't think that little Audi would make it. And I said, sir, I'm from Tennessee. We don't get snow, but we damn sure get ice. So this is just what I do.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. And it's funny. I had a similar experience, but mine was more in the summertime. So I was on my way to Fort Lewis, and I was also going through Wyoming and all those other mountainous states. And I got to a point where my little 4-cylinder protege almost quit on the side of the mountain because it was just like, we're not going. I'm done. Like I could floor it, and the engine was screaming, and I was going as fast as 25 miles an hour.
That's hilarious. Those mountains are serious out there now.
Yeah, they sure are.
So when were you in Lewis?
2007.
Okay, yeah, you're well before me. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm older.
That's fine. Well, I mean, I'm over here talking about my older brother, so maybe I'll dial that back a little bit.
That's okay.
Okay, yeah, I was at Lewis. I'm trying to remember. I think we PCS there in 14. So we were there 14, 15, and then ultimately relocated in 16.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was that guy that signed the 6-year initial contract, in case you're
Mm-hmm.
curious. So 2016 was the ETS date anyway, which really pissed me off. They kicked me out, or they booted me 4 months before my ETS date.
Oh,
And
okay.
that stuck in my craw for a
Right.
long, long time. So I was like, I have 4 more months. Just let me finish out.
Right. At
No.
least. But
They said, no, hey, Big Sarge, because I had a P3, I couldn't go to WLC.
right.
So whenever I came back to Big Army from being over in my cool guy real world ops over in South Korea, come back over to Big Army. Big Army's like, the regulation states, you're E5 promotable. Don't know how you got that without WLC. Kick rocks. Okay. Cadre, schoolhouse cadre wouldn't let me go on a P3.
Right.
Sorry, I took you down memory lane for a second.
No, it's fine. I appreciate that. But it also kind of brings up, your brother was kind of in the similar situation. He had a P3 as well, and then had to let him go. So you guys meet up in McKinney, and then you decide to go to Collin Community College.
Yep, sure did.
Why Collin Community College first?
All right, I'm going to keep this brief.
Okay.
I feel very strongly about what I'm about to say. Whenever the last time I had been, so this was 2016, last time I had stepped foot in a classroom, like a real university classroom, would have been 2008. So I'd been out for a long time. And I was nervous because I didn't do well my freshman year in college. I was that freshman who moved to a different state with no friends and kind of jerked around. And so I didn't think I was up to the standard of a 4-year institution. Collin College, I did a little research, noticed that they had a really strong veterans resource office there. And that was the ultimate deciding factor. And I knew I wanted to get my degree in psychology and continue on with that, with the ultimate goal of being an adolescent neuropsychologist.
Okay.
And so it was a good place to start. Collin College was, and I drug Chase along, whatever he told you last night. I absolutely drug him with me.
Okay.
Got to get that BAH too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially since you guys are like starting anew, right? You got to get every little cent that you can. That's just how I see it.
Absolutely.
Especially with you guys, your fathers, your husbands, you're trying to provide for your family. You're also, you also need a little bit more to get to where you need to be.
Yeah, that was one thing. Chase was smart. Whenever he went through his med board process, he took his time. My family, whenever I was at Fort Lewis, I went on terminal leave in December of 15. My family relocated to Texas in August of 15. That was tough for me. That was really, really tough on me. And so those were some dark times for me, being up there alone in an empty house, trying to get it sold and doing. And so I did not take my time. I rushed through the process. The very first, offer, if you will, that they gave me in the med board, I was like, yeah, I'm good with that. Let's go. 10%. 10%. I knew there was more going on. So I was only making $187 a month in retirement, coming out. That has since changed because I went through it the right way with Chase's guidance on how to navigate that process. But one thing I don't know if a lot of people know about, if you are medically separated, relocating to another state, I can only speak for Texas specifically, but if you're relocating to Texas, you can pull on those unemployment benefits. And they do have employment services to help you. And this is through the Texas Workforce Commission. You can go and get that unemployment, and that'll help you kind of scrape along and do what you need to do until you get right. And that was a little nugget that I learned whenever I transitioned again. I swear to you, Rob, my life is filled with just rubbing shoulders and bumping into the right people at the right time. And so I had a gentleman, Shane Brown, was the guy that really ignited my passion for serving our community. And he was the counselor for me at Collin College. He's the one who told me about the TWC, really kind of handheld me through the collegiate process to get it started and doing that whole thing.
That's interesting. I didn't know that you could claim on unemployment benefits from the state of Texas if you had to be separated from the military early. I wish I did know that. To be fair, I also have utilized the unemployment benefits that Texas has for other jobs, but
Yep.
I didn't know that I could have done it even then, which definitely would have helped me. So hopefully, if somebody's hearing this and they're coming to Texas or they are in Texas, take advantage of that.
Please, please. I think that's something not a whole lot of people know about, but I vividly recall the lady's name at the TWC. Her name was Teresa Gifford. I don't know if she's still there or not, but the way they treated me, because, dude, I was uncomfortable. Like most every other veteran, if I'm there, it's because I need help.
Right.
And I don't like raising my hand and saying, hey, I'm down. Because somebody come pick me up. And the way they treated me with class, respect, made me feel like, hey, dude, you earn these unemployment benefits. It was a very eye-opening experience.
Absolutely. Completely agree with you there. Especially the way that they treated me, much the same. They knew that if I was there, I was there because I really needed help. And so you guys are at the community college, and then I have a question that Chase has wanted me to ask you.
Okay.
So be prepared for this. He wanted me to ask you about sitting in government class and a Percocet withdrawal.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to challenge his memory or mine. I don't remember. I think we were in our writing class.
Okay.
Uh, because, and the only reason I say that is we were in the far south building next to the larger parking lot at Collin College, there at
Okay.
the Plano campus. Chase and I were in class. Class went great. We roll out, we live down the road from each other in McKinney. We ride in together. And so we were walking out to his Xterra, walking through the parking lot. Chase is talking about something, and then all of a sudden I notice like his cadence is slowing down a little bit. And I'm going, man, I'm ready to get home. And I look over and Chase just crumples into a Corolla, a little white Toyota Corolla. And you know me, that 1 second pause. What do I do? And so I grabbed him. I noticed he was really uneasy on his legs, and I was like, "All right, Bubba, let's get you to the truck. I'll drive. You just relax, just thinking that he's exhausted." And at this time, to your point, and I'm sure he talked about it last night, he was shot in the eye while he was on active duty, and there was a lot that he was working through with that. And so I knew that. He knew that. He was taking medication, doing his best to manage pain and just live. But whenever we got in the truck, I looked at him and I said, "Hey, man, are you okay? Are you okay?" And he goes, "Yeah, I think I'm out. Passed out." So I gave him the good old sternum rub and got him back up. You can imagine your blood brother sitting right next to you, and someone that I would arguably say is a living, breathing hero for me in life. I'm doing everything I can. Hey, man, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. And so I took off like a bat out of hell,
Mm-hmm.
just to get us to the closest hospital I could find. And the whole time I'm driving, I drove to Allen Christian Medical Center, maybe. It was about 15, 20 minutes up the road, and he kept going in and out of consciousness. In and out, in and out, in and out. I'm panicking, because I'm trying to drive, follow navigation, keep him awake, and keep him talking, and then trying to let his wife know, hey, your husband, I'm taking him to the hospital. I don't know what to tell you. And so that was a very eventful time that ultimately culminated in me yelling at the poor reception lady who wouldn't give me the time of day to finish her conversation. I got onto her pretty good.
Yeah.
Because Chase was passing out. And then we found out it was essentially withdrawal. He was going through like a drug addict would. A withdrawal, man. He was going in and out of consciousness. So that made for an eventful like Tuesday afternoon. It was a good time.
I could imagine. I could imagine.
It was a good time. Picking him up and fireman carrying his big butt in the parking lot to the truck. It was a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. So what did that really do for you in the end? Like you kind of looked at it and said, things got to change. Something's got to be different.
Yeah. He was more concerned for where my brother was personally. Like, I got to get you right. What does that look like? And then I remember whenever Elizabeth showed up to the hospital, I was like, hey, I'm out. I got to go take care of my own family. Came back that night and talked with the nurse. And whenever she told me what was going on, that's whenever, Chase met with a lot of people, and I think it was also a light bulb moment for him because, not to be disparaging, but the VA was just throwing stuff at him. Hey, take this, take this, take this. So you can imagine he's stacking hydrocodone onto migraine shots that he was having to give himself every day, and then ADHD medicine. Like, it was just a laundry list of opioids that he's putting in his body that I didn't know about. And whenever I found out, that was hey man, we got to do something. This isn't it. This isn't not. It was more. It more went like this. Hey dude, don't go out like this. You've done way too much. Don't go out like this. And it was not intentional on his part. He was trying to self-medicate and withdraw down his dosage, and that was ultimately, he sent his body into shock because it wanted those opioids, and his body just went into shock. And so that was the whole conversation. Now it was, we spent a lot of time together before, but even more so after, just so I could try and be a good brother, be a good sibling, and two, just kind of, dude, we both miss that camaraderie, because I think there's one thing that is not discussed enough. Whenever you transition, if it's out of a career, a civilian career, you transition out of the military, you're not only losing a job, you're not only losing your career, you're losing your professional network, potentially, friends, family, you're relocating to a new spot. You lose all that. And your self-identity. It all of that is kind of tied up into service for me anyway. It was, and I know it was for Chase. And I think that experience, if anything, kind of drove us a little bit closer together to try and make sure both of us were a little more successful in what we were trying.
Absolutely. I think what really helped out is the fact that you guys were there and you guys had a support system. Right. Yes. You had your family there, but not only just your family, but his family and everything else. Whereas there's a lot of people out there who they get out of the military, they go straight to a completely new state, new city, new social life, new everything. And they're trying to plug into that network, but they don't have anybody. They don't have a support system. So I think that one of the biggest takeaways is, yes, find it as fast as you can, and just make sure it's healthy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm definitely glad that you were there for him.
Me too. Me too. Otherwise, I wouldn't have my brother or my current business partner. So life would look a hell of a lot different than it does right now.
Yeah. So let's lighten the mood back up a little bit,
okay,
just slightly. And we'll talk about your venture after the community college and you went to a new university.
That was interesting. Chase and I both applied to UTD. I got in. He did not. And so I had completed my Associate of Science in Psychology, which I will tell, and I have told many, many other veterans this, go back and do community college for 2 semesters. If the goal is to get your bachelor's degree, at that point you need to transfer over to your 4-year institution. Otherwise, you're going to be like me. Finish your associates because some advisor told you it's the best thing for you to do. Waste your GI Bill dollars in that regard, and then pay out of pocket to finish your undergrad. Guard those GI Bill dollars with your life. But I did. I transferred over to University of Texas at Dallas, and my major was psychology. Took me a little bit longer than I'd like to admit to finish that out, but ultimately did in 2020. And during that time, I started working at SMU. So starting a new school, working full time, got the kids, taking 3-hour classes 2 days a week, sitting in the lecture hall from 8 to 11, getting home at midnight, getting back up at 5:30 to do it all again the next day. So it was a grind, man. It was a real grind to finish that out.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I did not have the best experience. Colin, I don't want to sound disparaging, but I had a better experience at the community college than I did at the 4-year institution.
Okay.
The way that things were handled and the processing of things at the 4-year institution were just not up to the snuff as Colin College. So
Okay.
I am an alumni. Shameless plug. If you're looking for a place to start, Collin College is a great place to start. Their infrastructure for supporting veterans, the volume of veterans that they put through that collegiate system is impressive.
Okay. But that kind of leads me into the next thing is, so you went and you started working at another school. SMU, you said.
Yeah, Southern
Yeah.
Methodist University.
Okay. How did you get into that, and what was that experience like?
Man, network is king. And that's just the truth. And network doesn't have to just look like business development groups or, the Rotary Club or anything like that. For me, it was my church community.
Mm-hmm.
The director of child something at the church just mentioned to me, "Hey, I have a friend who works at SMU and they're looking to hire an IT guy. Would you be interested?" Absolutely. Because at that time, I had not moved over to UTD. So I was like, okay, I'll go to SMU. I'll get the tuition benefit. I'll just go to school at SMU because I'd already been accepted there. I'd been accepted at UTD. But when I started at SMU, I was a temporary employee through Kelly Services, so I didn't get those tuition benefits, which means I couldn't afford the $60,000 a year for tuition. Thus, the State College of UTD. So, kind of worked my way up with no IT experience. My first boss, his name was Tony. He was a National Guard guy. And so, whenever I got to SMU, they didn't have a centralized veteran services office for their continuing and professional education unit. And so, he and I worked to develop that together and ultimately started as a temporary IT guy through Kelly Services at SMU in 2017, and I walked away from SMU in March of 24 as the Director of Veterans Affairs.
So you built this organization from the ground up, you and this other guy.
We did, and I give credit where credit is due because there was a hell of a lot of buy-in across the institution, inside the bursar's office, registrar's office. There's a lot of buy-in and a lot of effort across, faculty, staff, and all that. So, but yes.
I feel like I know the answer to this, but I want to hear it from you anyway. What was the motivating factor into creating this Veterans Association at SMU?
Yeah, so for me, again, I had Shane Brown at Collin College. That was my mentor. And seeing his passion for serving our community, dude, like I told you, adolescent neuropsychology, that was it. That's what I wanted to do. And then after working with Shane and seeing, how the leg up, the hand that he held out for me to pull me up was something that I had to do something. I had to. And at that time in 2017, I hope I'm telling this correctly, there was no one else. There was no one like that in this. And so what do we do in the military? We see a need, we feel a need, right? I saw the need at the university for a go-to veterans guy whenever it comes to using your GI Bill, setting up educational, paths through various degree programs, and more importantly, ensuring that these continuing education programs are certified for GI Bill dollars. That was the biggest. That was kind of the feather in my cap because before me, this continuing and professional education unit had operated for 67 years, and they only had one GI Bill approved program. I'm looking at the catalog going, we have 32. Why only one? And at first, it was just a passion project. It was just something I was doing on the side. Vividly recall the director of the unit looked at me and said, "Hey, you can do this, but you have to turn in enough revenue to show your worth, to cover your salary, if this is what you want to do." And so I took that leap, and luckily it worked out.
Oh, yeah. And so would you say that was kind of the origin story to what you and Chase do now?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to jump into that soon, but I want to finish up your time at the University of Texas in Dallas. And so you're finishing up, you're also SMU, and so you just kind of fell into these roles. You're doing a great job. And then so what had you want to leave?
There were a lot of things that transpired. It was an extreme oversight from the leadership that had come into the institution. They did not share the same vision that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And for years and years, I mean, we had the largest number of student veterans coming through my office, and I only oversaw the continuing and professional education unit. So, I mean, you're talking graduate, undergraduate students. The main campus is not seeing the volume that I had, and I needed help. And continuously for 6 years, 7 years, said I need somebody else. They wouldn't give it to me. We had a change of leadership. They came in, hired an organization to come in and look at job descriptions across the university and assign pay rate to that. And in a very informal form letter, I was told that they were removing my title of Director of Veterans Affairs and essentially capping my payout. I couldn't make any more money, so my incentive gone. They stripped me of a title, which I will, and I tell all companies this that we work with now. Titles may not mean a whole lot to our civilian counterparts, but to service members, it means a lot. Or it does to me anyway. And I find some care as well. But I didn't want to be called a veterans, affairs specialist whenever I was just the director of veterans affairs for 3 years. I'm making $62,000 and you just capped out my pay band because you dropped me 4 pay bands with no conversation, just like that, in a form letter. And that ultimately led to me meeting with university leadership. I expressed my concerns. I kind of laid out the strategic plan for the next 5 years, developed the metrics. I did my job. I wanted to be there, genuinely wanted to be there. But ultimately, I told them, we're at a break point here. I'm not going to change my title. Don't change my pay band. And then the slap in the face was, well, you can keep your public-facing title, but we're changing your pay band. And that was ultimately you know what? The timing's never right to step out on your own, but it's right for me right now. And so I took all my vacation time and exited the university on a very good note. From where I sit, I think I did my best to support as best I can. That office has since been dissolved, and some of the programs, it's tough to see because I always told everyone, this is my baby. I built it. I didn't want to leave it. And so to leave it and see it kind of deteriorate stung just a little bit, but it was necessary.
Right. But understanding that all that hard work was kind of pushed off by some other people, but you took that whole passion project with you to where you are now.
I did.
So
sure did.
Yeah. And that's, did you immediately go into DES?
No.
Right after, or what was that? What was the time period? What's going on?
No, we started. So DES was a brainchild of mine back in 2018, 2019, which is pillow talk between my wife and I. And I was like, I'm so sick of people telling me what I can and can't do, what I can say, what I can't say, but I knew I had to play the game and cut my chops. Learn was the most important thing. See people who are operating in the space. And I'll tell you right now, SMU is a phenomenal institution. The people that are there are some very high-performing individuals. The network that comes out of SMU is second to none. And I had the opportunity to meet with those people, talk with them, and they educated me. And so I left SMU. I liquidated my full retirement from the university to kind of float myself. And then I was seduced by supplemental insurance. And so I joined Globe Life as essentially a door-to-door salesman. And that's where I learned very rapidly I'm the world's worst salesman because I'm way too honest. I would tell people, they'd be like, is this good for me? Is this something that I need? I'm like, maybe. I don't know. So I did that. I left SMU in March of 24. I did supplemental insurance with Globe Life for 2 months. And then while my wife and I were cross-fencing our property, I tripped on a tiny little twig, stepped on it wrong in muck boots, and tore my ACL in my left knee.
No.
And since I couldn't do the door-to-door stuff, Globe Life said, hey man, kick rocks. First time in my life I'd ever been fired from a job. And again, ego hit.
Yeah.
It was one of those moments where you reflect and you're like, what am I doing wrong? You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, I talk with my wife. Very blessed in that regard. My wife's being my best friend. And so I don't know what to do. Legitimately, I don't. Retirement, we're not talking a massive sum. It was like 23 grand. That does not go far. in today's day and age. I said, what's the play? What's the play having made this many sales as a Globe Life life insurance agent? What do I do? And she said, well, you talked about DES. Maybe you should just dig into that. I called Chase. I said, hey, Bubba, you've used that body to make a lot of money. Now it's time to use your brain. Come over here and do this DES thing with me. Let's do something, make a good, positive impact, and then we can look for other things in the future. But that's ultimately what led to DES.
Well, that's amazing. I find it hilarious that you try to do door-to-door insurance sales with Globe Life, because I also was put into a position where I had to try door-to-door insurance sales with American Family Health, or I think that's what it is, but it's the sister company to Globe Life. And actually, one of our pitches to sports fans was, our sister company is Globe Life. The Texas Rangers play at Globe Life Field.
That's how I know you're telling the truth. Right there.
Right. I completely understand. I made one sale, and the family that made the sale like a month later, they were like, listen, we're not going to do this anymore.
Okay, hold on. Stop there. Seriously. This is eerie. I walked into a DoubleTree motel in Forney, Texas, and that was my one sale. The lady canceled on me that night. She said, you know what? I changed my mind.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This is hilarious.
Yeah. I didn't have any of that. So, and what made it worse was I didn't even have I don't think I had my VA rating yet. So I was making less than nothing. So let's talk about DES. Hey, give me a quick rundown of what you and Chase do.
Oh, you want the professional version? I'll give you the professional version.
We're going to compare notes between what you say and what Chase said yesterday.
It probably varies a little bit, but so do our jobs. So Dynamic Educational Solutions, we're a higher education and business solutions management company based out of Dallas, Texas. Essentially what we do a myriad of things. And I kid you not, it can range from connecting a business with another business, getting a trade school into a 4-year institution, to developing curriculum, implementation and deployment of that curriculum for military veterans. The ultimate goal for me was born out of my own personal experience, like I said earlier, using too many GI Bill dollars in community college and paying out of pocket at a 4-year institution. So the goal is to remove financial barriers for military service members, because the reality of the situation is we earn the GI Bill. 1, we pay into it. 2, you earn it through service. And the 36 months is absolutely phenomenal, and it works for a lot of people. But for a lot of people, they're still coming out of college with debt. I want to make that a thing of the past by working with institutions, working with our community partners, and all these different training providers to generate and create an educational training plan through their various degree or certificate programs, where veterans can come in, maximize all the benefits inside of the GI Bill, and ultimately matriculate with the least amount of money coming out of pocket. That is our mission.
That's awesome. So how many universities or how many schools do you work with? Like, that includes the trade schools to the 4-year.
Yeah. Right now we have 5 and 2 on the burner.
Okay. Can you say who they are? I don't know if you're allowed to.
I don't know if I am either. So for now, I'll abstain. But I will say, if anyone's listening to this and they're curious, hey man, stay tuned. All right, because there's going to be some big announcements coming soon. But we have a few private institutions. We have 3 public institutions, and we're talking 4-year institutions, 1 trade school, and then a global online training provider that we're working with right now. And potentially some larger things on the horizon that I'm all kinds of juiced up for, to really make some big impactful changes. But I'll dangle that in front of you and leave it with that.
This isn't the only thing that you and Chase do, though.
No, we have many arms inside of DES. You put two brothers together who are pretty high energy, who also have ADD, and one has ADHD. let's put them together and tell them to run an organization. And so we have DES, which is our professional consulting firm, and then we have a non-for-profit arm of DES that's working on a skill bridge program for transitioning service members, specifically to get into the IT or the esports sector. And we call that the Forge, which you can visit our website and find out all about it. And then we also do 2 podcasts. We have a professional podcast because I'm told I have to be professional at times. And then we have a podcast called Broken Toys, which is just a lot of fun.
Right. And the way that this lines up is we did a session of DES Talk.
Yeah.
Y'all did it with me.
Yep.
And then yesterday, I just aired the interview I did with your brother. And then this is coming out immediately after the following day. So it is going to be like a trifecta.
I love it, man. It's great.
So yeah, and I'm hoping that I could get on the other podcast too, on Broken Toys.
Yes, of course you can. Have you watched our first episode?
I have not.
You need to check it out. It's on Rumble. And Chase is our normal host on DES Talks, but I'm the host on Broken Toys for now.
Okay.
I think he may take that mantle from me because we had to restart twice. Not because I messed up, but because it is an unfiltered podcast. There's edits. I edit, but it's completely unfiltered, man. And so I want to make, if you come on, you got to be comfortable. That's the conversation. You know, it's just like being around your buddies, you know, around the burn barrel. There are no filters out there. And so I was told I had to restart twice for cursing almost immediately in the intro, which is probably the right call.
Gotcha. All right. So we're going to wrap this up with one final question. And I asked this to all of my guests. What is the one thing that you have learned or you picked up on in your military career that you still do to this day?
No. Okay. Well, that's a thinker. I mean, what are we talking?
Do you make your bed every morning with hospital corners?
I'm not that gung-ho, but I got to be honest with you, man. I tell everybody this. I didn't drink the proverbial Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever it came to that, I wanted to keep my own personality separate from who I was in the military. Just like I have, if you see me in a boardroom, I'm going to be completely different from the guy you're getting now. Like I just have 2 separate. But I will say, the one thing that I do, I never show my shoelaces. You will never, ever, ever see my shoelaces, ever.
You mean like the bow? Like you tuck those in?
You see any shoelaces right here? I can't stand it. I walk past people and they have their shoelaces even my boys, they put their shoelaces on. Hey, Bubba, you got to tuck those in, man. That looks like trash. And the hair, it's a little wild today, but the hair, if it's touching my ear, man, it's just like I can't.
There you go.
Drives me crazy.
Yep. Some of the weird standards / quirks that we keep.
I know, right? I know. Or the watch. The watch, whenever I wear it, I have to fight myself from turning it upside down so it slides under the cuff easier.
Right.
Yeah, now you got me really thinking. But that's probably the main ones. But my bed does get made every morning because I feel like a slacker if I don't.
There you go. Well, Rob, it's such a great honor having you on as this guest. Man. I appreciate you coming, man.
Yeah, appreciate you, brother. Appreciate what y'all are doing.
Thank you. Everyone, take a moment. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Later, lads.